Hello everyone, welcome back at RKI Tech TV. Here's Hussam with you. I'm a digital designer at Giuliani Associates Architects, and I'm here to talk about architecture 3D visualization using 3D Studio Max software. We talked last time about setting up the scene and how to set up the units and so on, and today I will take this opportunity to talk about something else, which is basic function. Basic function, this is something related to manage the layers, the selection, and cloning, grouping stuff together. And then we will go ahead and talk about creating objects like shapes and 3D geometry, primitive 3D geometry. So let's go ahead and start the lecture. So the first thing I want to talk about is the layer. I know that we talked about them a little bit last time, but today we will talk about them more in depth. So for example, if I have like three objects, let me go to the perspective view. Okay, if I have like three objects or more, and then you want to put some of them in the layer and to control and hide some of them. So you right click on the main toolbar and then activate layers, and you will see the layer toolbars over here. So what you're gonna do right now, all of the objects are in default layer. So we will go ahead and create a new layer, and then we can name it like A1 for example, and then move the selection to this layer, which is this guy here. So I'm selecting this one, so it will be at this layer. So if I hit OK, as you can see, if I hide this layer, this object is gone. So if I want to add this object to the same layer, I just select the object and press on add selection to current layer like this. So now we have two objects in that layer. And then if I create a new layer and I called it A2, I didn't actually check this because we don't have anything selected in the viewport, and I hit OK. Now if I want to move this to that layer, I select it and then I just press add selection. So now I have two layers, A1 and A2, and each layer has a different kind of object. And if you press on this icon over here, this is pretty much like Explorer for the layer. So that what tells you each layer what is going on inside it. So it tells you what kind of object inside that layer, and you can see the names and you can freeze it. And the reason for freezing object, because you don't want to hit it by mistake while you're moving or creating something else, or you may want to render it at the final scene, but if you uncheck this and you hit rendering, you will not see anything because this object is not renderable actually. So, and then you have the display, which is basically in hide and hide the object as well. So three different options here to control the object under the layer, and then you can turn them on and off from here. And again, you can tell what's going on in each layer by the Scene Explorer over here. So this is pretty much all of the things about the layer. And my advice to you guys, just go and use those different things. The layer is very important because you can, you end up with the scene has a lot of trees and has a lot of cars, people, glasses, whatever, different object with different materials. So it's better if you name the layer based on those objects and put them in the layer, so you can even make the scene very light while you're working. So that's the reason that we have to maintain our scene using a layer. The second thing I want to talk about it today is the grouping. Okay, so I will go ahead. Of course, this one is still freezing, so I have to go back here and unfreeze it. Okay, it's here and then here. Okay, so you have three different objects. Maybe we will add more objects just to show you how the grouping will work. So for example, if I want to move something and I want these three things move together, so I have to group them as one object, so I don't have to select each one individually every time. So for now I will go ahead and select three of them, and you can add the selection by pressing Control while you select, and you can see there is like small plus with the arrow, which is mean that you're adding a selection. So now I add all of these selection together, and they will go all the way up to the main menu and select group, and then I hit group again, and then you will have to name this group. For example, like I said, maybe we can group it A1, and you have to be very very careful when you name something, because you want to be sure that you're selecting the same thing. For example, if they are trees, name it the site of trees or the house of trees or whatever. So when you go ahead and select those group, you know what they are. So you hit OK. Now if I right click and select move, you notice I can move all of these objects as one group. Okay, so then if I want to add something to that group, I just select it and I go all the way to group and then attach, and that will allow me to attach this object to this group. So if I click on them right now, all of them is just one group, as you can see. So first I create the group, and then if I forget something else, I click on it, select it, and then I add the group by using attach to group. Same thing if you want to detach something from the group, like this object over here. I want to just detach it from the group. So the first thing you have to do is just open the group. So first we make the group, like we close it, so we have to open it, and then you will see this gizmo in the pink color, so you can select whatever inside the group. This is actually tells you where is the group or the boundary of the group of the object. So for example, I want to select this and I want to make it different, or I want to just isolate it from the group. I will go ahead to the group and then hit detach. As you can see now, it's not related to the group anymore, because if you move anything else, you see the gizmo will move based on that object movement. So anything that included in the gizmo, it means it's still inside the group. So now, because we open the group, we have to go back and close it. So we select any object or the gizmo itself, and we hit group and then close. So now we have group and the attached object. So what happens if I want to make two groups? So we have group A1, and I will go ahead and select this and that objects, and then I group them again, and I call them A2. So we have this group and that group. So we have two groups. And you can actually add or make another group that, you know, has both of them. So I select all of the groups and I go again and make group and make it like all. So all of them right now under one group called all, but then inside it, if I open it, there is two groups inside it. This is one and this is two. And then if I want to move an object inside the parent group or the child group, I have to select it, go to group and open it again, and then as you can see, the gizmo will show me there is a bigger group, which is the main one, or the parent group, and then the child group, which is the secondary group. And then if you want to close everything, you just have to go and close twice. But what if you want to just, get rid of all groups and just make every object or each object individually move? So you select the whole thing and you just go to group and then hit explode. So explode everything. So as you can see now, there is no group at all. And again, this is very important to have this kind of groups and layers that will help you to minimize what you see in the viewport, and that will give you an ability to manage the RAM, the VGA card, ability to the rendering itself. Sometimes you want to do very fast rendering, so you don't have to render everything. You may want to see the street with the trees, so you just select those groups, or you turn off all the layer except those two layers, and then you hit rendering to see how the rendering looks like. Again, it's just a way to manage the RAM and not waste a lot of performance on your computer. So, and to be honest, even sometimes you need to bring those objects to another scene, so it's easier if you know what group you recall in the other scene. So all of these kinds of things is very helpful after a while. Of course, they will take you maybe a minute or so to do at the beginning, but they will save your time eventually. So let's go back and talk about the selection. How we going to select the object, because right now, as you can see on the monitor, those very few objects here, and there is nothing that we can concern about it. But if you have a site or a lot of furniture inside the room, it's something. Sometimes it's really difficult to go ahead and make a selection. For now, you just have to press Control while you're selecting the object, and that will make the selection very easy for you. Another way, which is select by windows, which is mean if you go all the way up here, you can see windows and crossing selection. Okay, if you click on it, you can see two options over here. Okay, these two options help you the way you select the object itself. For example, sometimes just crossing the object, it helps you to select whatever you want. For example, like if you go here and just hit crossing, and you see from the drawing on the icon itself, it tells you anything that will touch the selection window, it will be selected. So if I go ahead and draw a selection like this, so anything will touch this selection window, it will be selected right away. But if I'm in top view, for example, and I want to select these two guys only, okay, so if I want to make it with the crossing selection, by accident, I may touch something else. So, and you see what I meant? But if I just go ahead and make it full windows like this, so anything just inside the crossing or the window, it will be selected. So anything inside, even if I touch something else, it will not be selected like this. Okay, so this is very helpful when you want to select anything. Sometimes you want to make the selection like this, organic selection or whatever. So Max give you this ability because it's not just the shape of rectangular, as you can see. The windows of selection could be anything else. For example, if you go to the icon next to the selection icons, you will see, and the press and hold down, you will see different selection shapes. For example, if I select the circle, my selection windows will turn to circle. Same thing, anything, included, the circle will be selected. Anything outside, it's not selected based on the selection method. Sometimes I like to use the free form like this. It's really make it easy for me to go ahead and just select whatever I want from the scene like that. And if I close it, you'll see that I selected only those objects. Another one, this one free form as well, but it's more organic, so you can just go ahead and select those objects and you have them. Okay? And by brushing as well, or like this, so you can just, this is very useful when you are in sub-object actually, the paint selection region. Okay? So we will not cover this right now, we will cover it when we go to the sub-object. So we'll go back to the rectangular selection. So now we talked about the selection, the grouping, the layer. I want to talk about even the mood of the viewport. It's very important when you use the mood. If we just add a simple plane underneath the object, just to see what's going on right now, like this. Okay, as you can see, now we are in realistic mood over here. So these are the different mood that it can help you to see the object in real time. So the first one, realistic, which is basically creating kind of shadow, which is very important to our work, that will help us to decide how the sunlight located in our scene, or a different light, how they will be located out there. Okay, and the other one, shaded, which is just give you a color of what's going on here. So you can easily select the object, move them or rotate them or whatever you want to do. And the third one, we are not using that much this one, but mostly we use edge faces, which is basically, it will be added to shaded or realistic or this other mood selection. So if I turn it on, you will notice that we can see the sub-object that we talked about last lecture, like the segment, the faces, and so on. And this is really very important to see if you want to add more segment to make it more smooth, for example, or you want to bend the object, so you need more segment or more sub-object. So my advice to you all the time while you're working, it's better if you have shaded and edge faces, because they are very light on the machine. At the same time, you are not losing the ability of increasing or decreasing the sub-object level. And then lately, 3D Studio Max development, developer team, they came up with something new. It's called clay mood. It makes the look more professional with just one color, with the smooth shadow and everything. And most of the artists like to work with this kind of mood viewport. Okay, just to let you know the ability that Max has it right now. And then you have wireframe. If you have a really big scene, it's really going to be very difficult to move or to pan the viewport. And now this one, it make it very easy. even to zoom in, zoom out. As you can see, it's not consuming a lot of RAM or power from the VGA card as well. Or you can go with the bounding boxes, so it will not show you exactly how the object looks like, but mostly it will show you just the bounding box around the object. Okay, so like I said, most of what we're using shaded with the edges, and lately again they add one of the most interesting part, which is stylized. This one, it will give you like a hand drawing look, as you can see, so you can take a screenshot and you can make one of these good looking rendering, or color pencil. So this stylized has a lot of different mood you can use for the presentation, if you will. I was planning to talk about more stuff today, but apparently the time is not helping us. So for now, we will just stop at this point, and then we will continue next lecture. Thank you so much for watching us again, and please be tuned for the next lecture. Thank you. Bye-bye.